YouTube. Hey there, Tom Hanks, if you're ever tuning in. I am Kari Cooper, and you have stumbled into my little corner of the world yet again. If this is your first time here, drop me a little note in the chat. Tell me where you're watching from. I'm so excited to have you here. So excited to welcome you into my corner of the world. It's a small corner, but I like it. Today, we've been Tracy and I were joking around prior to the show. And earlier in the week, it was National Talk Like a Pirate Day. In the United States, I don't know if you know this, but you can always Google, like, what day is it? Like, what holiday is it? Some countries have more holidays than others. For example, the Philippines has a lot more holidays than we have in the United States. So if you Google what national holiday is it today, it is National Cat and Dog Gut Health Awareness Day. So if you have a pet, check on their gut health. Check on their gut health. I'm sure my dogs will tell me if their gut health is out of balance. My very chatty animals. But thank you so much for tuning in today. Hello in the Philippines. I'm so happy to have you here. Watching from Saudi Arabia, very excited to have you here. I think in the world tour realm of things, I think we have a trip planned to Saudi Arabia at some point. I think, it could be wrong, but I think we will, which would be awesome. I would volunteer to go on that trip. I would love to go to Saudi Arabia. Hello in Cameroon. So excited that you're here today. Thank you for tuning in. So today on Kari's Corner, we're going back to my roots, is what I like to say. Watching in Nigeria. Hello in Nigeria. So today we're going back to the English language exam, right? And today what I really wanted to do was have just a very open Q&A session, question and answer session. Hello in Johannesburg, South Africa. So happy to have you with us today. Oman. Look at Kenya. Oh my gracious. You guys are awesome. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you for tuning in today. So we're going to do a question and answer session, and it really is going to be you asking any question that comes to your mind. It doesn't have to be about the English language exam, but I will go ahead and give a little disclaimer that is what I know the most about in regards to the immigration process. But I do have just a little bit of knowledge around kind of all the other parts of immigration. If you ask me about which paperwork gets filed at which phase, I got no clue. I will have to bring on my very wonderful, beautiful, good friend, Marlo Bench, and she can answer all the paperwork questions. But as far as the English language exam, or if you have any questions that you guys want to throw out there, I'm here. I'm happy to answer them. I'm live. I'm in person, and I see it in the chat. So pop your questions in the chat. To get things started, I did create kind of a little presentation just about the top English exam questions that I receive and that I received on my travels to Korea and the Philippines. So there's my email right there too. If you're just not comfortable putting something in the chat, you can always email me. I'm happy to get those emails. Hi, good morning to you as well. So happy you've stumbled into my little corner of the world. So the first question that I'm going to put up is probably the most common one that I get, and I know my people at Pearson are loving this. Is the PTE accepted in, and you'll ask me a question about which state. Well, here you go, ladies and gentlemen. PTE has been working very hard along with other exams, and I'm going to talk about those other exams later on in the presentation. But PTE these are all the states that it is now accepted in. They've been working really hard, communicating with a lot of different boards of nursing, trying to get on their docket to be added as an accepted exam. If you look at this state list in parentheses after some of them, for example, California, Colorado, Florida, you'll see the word "end" in parentheses. What that means is endorsement only. So for those states, the PTE is only accepted if you are applying for licensure by endorsement. That means you've already passed the NCLEX and you have a current nursing license in the United States. If you are a nurse aide and you just want to take an exam as part of just to have on your resume, I strongly suggest that. Strongly suggest that. PTE is a great option for that as well. But I'm going to talk about some other exams later on in the presentation outside of the big three. The big three are TOEFL. It used to be just the big two, IELTS and TOEFL, but PTE has really kind of wedged its way in there to be the third biggest competitor, if you want to say that. So we did have a question. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name. Is it Jobs? Mariano Bautista? Probably mispronounced it. I apologize, but you ask a great question. Between TOEFL and IELTS, which one is easier? So if we're just comparing TOEFL and IELTS, because I do have a question later on that's like, which exam's the easiest? Which exam is easier between TOEFL and IELTS? That's a great question and a very vague answer would be it depends. It depends on your strengths. It depends on your comfort level. So for example, TOEFL does not require speaking in person. It's a recorded session. Some people, IELTS speaking in person makes them really uncomfortable. That gives them anxiety. That makes them nervous. Speaking to another person and literally being judged right in the moment. That's what's happening with IELTS. You are being scored and judged right in the moment of your speaking. And that can be really nerve-wracking. That can be really uncomfortable for some people. Do I think it's good preparation for what you're going to experience here in the United States? Absolutely. But if you're just looking at English language purposes, TOEFL does have the recorded speaking session. I do like to remind everyone that TOEFL has now cut their exam time in half. TOEFL is now only 2 hours long. And part of what makes an exam so difficult is the amount of time your brain has to spend focusing. Because let's be completely honest, not all of us as adults, maybe when we were just graduating from university. Good morning, Jamaica. Hello, Italy. Wow, that's super cool. Hello, Italy. But when you're an adult, when you're out of school for a certain amount of time, you kind of lose that ability to test and focus for that long, right? 4 hours of your brain reading, listening, speaking, writing. That's not something we do every day in our adult lives. We just don't. So you have to train your brain to focus for 4 hours. Is it easier to focus for 2 hours? Possibly. So that might make the TOEFL an option for you. Everyone is so scared of the TOEFL, and I just think that's crazy. I would be more scared of the IELTS, but that's just me. PTE is accepted. The PTE question's still on the screen. So the PTE is accepted for endorsement in the states listed with END. What does END mean in some states? That means that endorsement only. So if you're applying for licensure by examination in California, the only exam accepted is TOEFL. So END means endorsement only. If there's nothing listed after the state, that means that state accepts the PTE for licensure by examination and licensure by endorsement. So hopefully that cleared up those questions. What will happen if one is waiting to be documentarily qualified? They gave birth. How will that child case be filled, arrive in the United States, the parent at the same time? So you can add children to your petition. Absolutely. That's going to be a better question. You'll get a better response with that question from your case manager. Your case manager is going to be the one who can answer that question more in detail. I do know that children can be added or dependents can be added up to a certain point in the immigration process, especially newborns, right? You can't really fill their paperwork out because they haven't been born yet. So that is a situation that I know your case manager, is it Nurse Jimo? I probably pronounced that wrong. I'm so sorry, but that is definitely a situation your case manager will help you work through, because we are not leaving babies behind. My goodness, we can't leave babies behind. That would break my heart. How about Utah? Utah's not listed on my states, but if you give me just a second, I can pull up Utah. I'm scrolling, but you guys can't see that. TOEFL, IELTS, and TOEIC in Utah. TOEFL, IELTS, and TOEIC. Are those states listed that accept PTE? Is it also applicable for medical technologists? That is a great question. I'm going to need to do some digging. If medical technologists still have to go through you obviously wouldn't go through the Board of Nursing. You would go through a different licensure process. So that is a really great question. Kimberly, if you could, I'm actually going to take a note to myself to look that up. Tracy might already be on the other end. If Tracy could do some research on me for the other end. Tracy, of course, is managing our chat. Could you ask around the office or look up real quick the medical technologist English language requirements? Mostly I work with RNs, Kimberly, so I don't want to give you an answer that could be wrong. I don't want to give you the wrong information. So we're going to do our due diligence on that question, Kimberly, and we are going to get you an answer. Thank you for asking that question and speaking up for our medical technologists everywhere. Fantastic. You guys are already I didn't even need to make a presentation. You guys are already asking amazing questions. So let's kind of move on to my next question, which our recruiting team will confirm shortly. Yes, our recruiting team will confirm this shortly. So I told you, Kimberly, Tracy is already on it. I just knew he would be. So which exam should I take? That's a question I get a lot I don't know which exam should I take. Hello, Florence in Nigeria. And again, that depends. It depends on what kind of test taker you are. It depends on a lot of different things. It depends on your budget. Everyone's goal and your goal should be to take the test once and get the desired results one time, because you should be saving money for your immigration process, right? Immigration's expensive. You don't want to have to take this test 500 times. So you want to be able to take, some of you don't have an option. For example, if you're going to Georgia and your education was not done in English, you have to take the TOEFL. That's it. It's TOEFL. So that's just the requirement. Some of you are going to have a choice. You'll have an option between TOEFL and IELTS. Some of you, if you have the option, if your case manager says you just need your visa screen, you have a whole list of options. And I feel like so many times people are only looking at, IELTS, TOEFL, or PTE. There are so many other options out there. And some of these tests are working really, really hard to make themselves more available to you, the test taker. So which exam should I take? It totally depends on you. If you're comfortable talking to a person and that's how you would like to be scored, is speaking in person, because speaking to a computer just weirds you out, IELTS is a great way to go for you. If you are, if you're comfortable speaking to the computer, then you've got, speaking to a person, you've also got OET is an option. MET, also an option. So 2 other tests that are out there that some of you just may not be aware that they're out there and they're options for you. PTE and TOEFL, speaking to a computer. You may have more of a comfort level there. TOEIC is also an option that is accepted by so many places. TOEIC is, I guess I would call it the easier version of TOEFL. A benefit for the TOEIC is that you take it in 2 different sections. So you take reading and listening on one day, and then you take speaking and writing at another point. So if you fail your reading and listening, you don't have to take the whole test again, right? You can just take reading and listening. A great thing I just learned. So I had a conversation yesterday with my people at the MET, which is the Michigan-based English test, and they're working really, really hard to, one of the things I told them that our candidates are looking for, obviously, is affordability. But one of the things y'all are looking for is availability. So not just affordability, availability. What testing locations are good for you? So the MET is actively working on having more testing centers available to you. And the MET is a fantastic testing option that I really want to put on your radar that you need to be looking out for. The MET is accepted in almost as many states as Pearson PTE is, believe it or not. But just because of the availability, MET is not as commonly talked about. So it is entering the conversation, ladies and gentlemen, and it is working hard to do so. OET also working hard to do so. OET is working really hard to become more available. So make sure you don't just look at IELTS, PTE, and TOEFL. Look at all of your options. All of your options. Sorry, you are new here, but you have your IELTS exam in October. Good luck on your IELTS exam, Fama. We are behind you. We are encouraging you. We're here for you for sure. In case, Kimberly, you didn't see your answer in the chat, if there are any MedLab techs out there, an English exam is required for the visa screen. So then if you go through CGFNS or Joseph Silney for the visa screen, you have a big old list to choose from. So my advice to you when answering this question, which exam should I take? First and foremost, you need to see which exam can you take, which one's accepted, not for the visa screen, because if you take the PTE and you're going to Georgia, we're going to stop you. We're going to be like, great, I'm glad you got your visa screen, but you cannot move forward until you pass your Board of Nursing required exam. That is a policy that we have at Worldwide. I know it can be a pain. I know it can be frustrating because you just want to move forward and you're going to tell yourself, but I'll study. I'll take it. I'll study. Then it gets to be too late. And then it just becomes a big old nightmare at the end for your licensure. So we require, in order to move forward past the visa screen stage, you have to take your Board of Nursing required exam. That's just the requirement. So think about that. Think about that when you're looking at job offers. Unless you're comfortable taking the TOEFL, Georgia may not be the state for you, right? Look at your job offers, okay? And then there's a whole big thing that you need to look at when you're looking at which exam should I take. I do want to say that TOEFL is the only exam accepted by all 50 states. It's the only one. And again, some of your friends in the past may be like, oh my gosh, TOEFL's so hard. TOEFL just had a facelift. It's now half the time of IELTS. So give it a shot. Give it a try. We're here to help you. We're here to help you prepare. Okay? Don't be so scared of TOEFL. I already told you guys, I'd be more scared of IELTS, but that's just me. Not saying IELTS isn't a great test. I think IELTS is a great test. I think they all have their pluses and minuses. But I don't have to take the test. Which exam is the easiest? Yeah, that's a question I get all the time. And it's very hard for me to answer this question without necessarily throwing someone under the bus. I see a question. My NCLEX Board of Nursing is New Mexico. She got the offer. Yes, understand. PTE is accepted in Virginia. Absolutely. Yes, you can take the PTE and go to Virginia. So right now, I think on the next, is it the next slide that I have my statistics? I have a slide with some statistics of the average passing rates. And PTE is right now, people are saying PTE is easier. That's not necessarily true. PTE is not necessarily easier. It's just that the scoring of the PTE when compared to an IELTS, and PTE doesn't set this. People are often confused. Pearson has no say in what score is accepted by the Board of Nursing or by HRSA, or CGFNS or any of that. PTE doesn't set that. They set that. Boards of Nursing set those individual score requirements with the guidance of Health Administration, National Health Administration. So yes, PTE's minimum score requirement is a 55, nothing lower than a 50 in all sections, which is the equivalent of an IELTS like 6. So is it easier to get a 55 than it is to get an IELTS 7? Yes. Yes, it is. That's statistically true. But does that make the Pearson PTE easier? No. And unfortunately, people are not, because they think they can take PTE and they think it's easier, they're not studying as hard. They're not preparing as hard. So you're not getting the same score results that you would see if you were preparing for an IELTS, a TOEFL, an OET, an MET. You still need to work hard. You still need to, your goal with the PTE should not be just to get a 55. You need to get as high as you possibly can score. You need to work to get as high as you possibly can score. Don't be satisfied with just, oh, good, I got the minimum requirements, moving on. Because we did a webinar yesterday, and Tracy was amazing on that webinar with me, because the real English language test starts when you arrive in the United States. You can't just expect to get the bare minimum on these English tests and then not speak English for a year and then arrive in the United States and expect to be successful in the workplace. English language is something that you now are working on, and you will need to continue working on. It's kind of like your bedside care. We tell you, make sure you stay in bedside, make sure you stay in bedside, keep working. Same thing with your English language. Just because you get your visa screen, got to keep working on the English language, or else you're really going to struggle upon your arrival. And we don't want that. We want you to be as prepared as possible. So kind of, gave you an answer on which one's the easiest. Again, it depends. It depends. Depends on you. Are there other exam options? Hello in Cameroon. Hello, Lucy in Nigeria. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Are there other exam options besides IELTS and TOEFL? Yes, 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 yes. There are so many exam options that just fly under the radar. Like I said, MET is working hard to create more testing center locations for you. The thing that there's two tests that I really want to highlight on this question. You guys know about Pearson, you know about PTE. The two tests I really want to highlight in this portion are the MET and the OET, and they both have great things that they bring to the table. The MET is looking for the total package. Like there's some academic rigor based in their test. Absolutely. Similar to a Pearson, similar to a TOEFL or an IELTS. The reading material, the listening material, it's going to be similar to that. But the MET, when it's preparing you for their exam, they're preparing you to be the total package of an English language speaker. They are really invested in you. I had an hour-long meeting with MET yesterday about how can they help? How can they support you? How can they be a successful test option to produce successful English-speaking nurses in the United States? And they are so invested in helping you. So I see some really great things coming down the tunnel, coming down the pipe from MET. So keep that on your radar. Absolutely keep MET on your radar. OET, hello in Ghana. OET, also hello in Tanzania. The OET is the only healthcare-based test. The only healthcare-based test. So it is absolutely an option that a lot of people don't consider. Yes, it's got a hefty price tag. However, if you're one of those people that's taken the IELTS 2 times, you've already paid for the OET. If you've taken the TOEFL 2 times, you've already paid for the OET, right? So OET is great for healthcare preparation. It's going to help you prepare for English speaking in the workplace. Yes, like I said, OET is the most expensive exam. It absolutely is the most expensive exam. However, I got a really great email from a candidate yesterday, and she had just taken the OET, and she talked about how nervous she was, and how she worked really, really hard. She took 2 months to prepare and really focus and study. She told me, she said she had a lot of prayer going into this test, but she found success. She found success in this test, and she had the use and the access of all free materials. So that is another thing the OET does really well. Yes, it's more expensive, but the access to free materials that they give you is pretty stellar. So those are 2 tests that are 2 different tests. They're very different tests, but they're 2 options that I want to make sure you consider. Absolutely consider those options. We've got to get it out of our minds that IELTS and TOEFL are the only options, because they're not. You have so many options. Make sure you look at all of those options. Can I take you need to take the IELTS before your arrival. Yes, in order to get a visa screen, you have to take an English exam, unless you're a nurse aide. If you're a nurse aide, it's a whole different process for you. But if you're a nurse, I do want to say you do not have to have an English exam prior to applying with Worldwide. You can apply with us without taking your English language exam. I suggest it just because I would hate to see you waste money unless you take the TOEFL. I would hate to see you waste money on a test that you accept a job somewhere and that test is not accepted by that board of nursing. So make sure, I want to make sure everybody out there understands you do not have to have an English language test before applying to Worldwide. That's why I'm here to help you prepare for your English language test. Even if you're not a nurse with Worldwide, I'm here. I'm here to help. Let's see. Moving on. So some interesting test data. I mentioned this earlier. Hopefully for those of you, if you do achieve the scores that you need, right? IELTS averages from 2022. These are the individual testing averages between men and women all over the world from IELTS. Is IELTS, can it be considered as an alternate to OET and vice versa? It depends on your state, Eddie. Absolutely depends on your state. Is PTE accepted by CGFNS? Absolutely, Laurent. Yes, PTE is accepted by CGFNS and Joseph Silney, both of those. So IELTS, does the nurse aide need an English exam? No, Bashara. Nurse aides do not need an English exam, but it is strongly encouraged. Just, it looks great on your resume. It does look great. It will also give you something to work for and work towards as far as making sure that you're studying and preparing for speaking English every day in the workplace. So it kind of gives you a goal at the end instead of just mindlessly practicing English, right? So IELTS averages, the listening average was a 6.51. Reading is 6.23. Writing is 5.91. Oh, as an English teacher, that hurts my heart, but I know it's so true. Writing, I feel like, is the last thing we want to do, especially nurses. You do not want to sit down and write an essay. You're like, I'm a nurse. I don't have time to sit down and write an essay. I have to fill out a chart on a patient in less than 5 minutes. Okay? That's all I'm telling you. You don't want to write an essay. From Jamaica, Arlene, if you were educated in Jamaica, Jamaica is acknowledged by CGFNS as an English-speaking country. So no, you would be exempt from taking the English exam. As a nurse aide, when should you take your English exam? That's a great question, Lucy. As a nurse aide, you can take your English exam whenever you want to. Whenever you want, because it's not a requirement. Totally up to you. Another candidate got their IELTS already. That's fantastic. Congratulations to you on getting your IELTS. Now you've got to work on that NCLEX. Absolutely. NCLEX is super, super, super important to get a job offer in the United States. You have way more potential to get a job offer in the United States if you take and pass the NCLEX exam. That's for sure. I thought it was interesting, though, switching back to IELTS averages, that the overall average for the IELTS is a 6.25, and that's below. So we're asking nurses to get higher than average. We're asking you to get a 6.5 overall. And if you look at that speaking, it's almost a full point. We're asking you to get a full point higher than the average. So that's some interesting. So for those of you who are like, which test is the easiest? IELTS looks like it's still pretty hard. It's pretty hard. There's some serious work you got to take into preparing for the IELTS. I think preparing for the IELTS mostly is preparing for the time, preparing your brain to focus for that extended amount of time. If one applies with Worldwide HealthStaff, what stage is the IELTS needed? Great question, Chi. We will start encouraging you to work on your English language exam pretty early in the process. But it is needed by what we call stage 7, or that's the visa screen stage, and it's needed as a requirement to obtain your visa screen. So stage 7 is when you have to have it in order to move forward, and it's got to be the exam approved by your board of nursing. So hopefully that answered your question, Chi. What is the IELTS band for the visa screen? So for the visa screen, the IELTS is a 6.5 overall and a 7 in speaking. It's the same requirement kind of across the board for all healthcare professionals. I think actually doctors may need an 8. I think I read that somewhere. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But as far as MLTs, nurses, that requirement's a 7, a speaking score of 7, and an overall band score of 6.5. I'm from Ghana, an English-speaking country. So Ghana is not on the CGFNS list as far as countries that are exempt from taking the English language exam. I will quickly list those countries. Actually, I think I can copy them and put them in the chat. These countries, there they are. I just put them in the chat. The countries where an English language exam is not required, you are exempt, are listed now in the chat. Australia, Barbados, Canada, except Quebec, and there's all sorts of rules with Canada. Ireland, Jamaica, New Zealand, South Africa, Trinidad and Tobago, United Kingdom, and United States. Only those countries are acknowledged by CGFNS, and if they're acknowledged by CGFNS, it usually works the same in for boards of nursing as well. So Ghana is not on that list. So yes, you will need to take an English exam if you're a nurse coming from Ghana. The TOEFL IBT average is a 74.2. And the CGFNS requirement is an 81. Many states still have an 83. So these are the overall averages. So again, we're TOEFL, the average score, we're asking you to get above average. That's a full almost 7 points above the average. These are all from 2022. Hello from New UK. Hello. Can Worldwide HealthStaff help a registered nurse through NCLEX and IELTS exams? So yes, absolutely. We can help you. I can help you through the IELTS exams. And then NCLEX, we do have a program, but there is a very specific screening process for our NCLEX preparation program. What we at Worldwide like to recommend is Rachel Allen. Rachel Allen is a fantastic NCLEX preparation program that you have access to. So I would suggest strongly checking out Rachel Allen. We partner with them. They do great stuff. They do great preparation. We do have someone, but it's a very, very stringent screening process to get into her program. You have to meet all sorts of different criteria for that. So hopefully that answers your question, Violet. Let's see. What about the MET? What about the MET, Edinson? The MET is a fantastic exam. And like I said, they're doing a lot of work to make themselves more available. I have had nurses who have taken the MET. And one of the things that they found about the MET that they liked was they felt like it was, and this is not a term that you usually hear with testing, but they felt like it was a very friendly test, very user-friendly. They didn't feel overwhelmed by the test, by the timing, by the information. They just felt like it was a very user-friendly test. Their speaking portion is super cool. I love the way they do their speaking portion. But the MET is totally an option. Yes, please, please, please. Sorry for taking you off the main topic. That's fine. I love to get off topic, especially if you ever want to talk about college football. I will talk about college football and Tom Hanks or dogs all day long. College football, Tom Hanks, dogs. But something tells me, Emmeline, you are not going to ask me about college football, Tom Hanks, or dogs. So let's see what your question is. After the visa screen certificate is obtained, what are the stages left before someone can be deployed to the United States? So that is stage 7. So then you have 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, I think, is when your arrival. That's when 11 is when we start booking all your flights and all that fun stuff. You'll go through once you get, documentarily qualified and all that, you'll have the correct stage 12 as arrival and placement. Look at me go. Hey, got one right today. So you at that point, I'm going to say, what my favorite traffic reporter would say, and that's pack your patience, because you need to, you have to wait for that embassy interview appointment, which that can take some time. You want to make sure before your embassy interview, like don't get your health screening until I think it's within like 10 days of your embassy interview. So don't like 2 months, you're like, oh, I got my embassy interview and go get your health screening 2 months because it won't be valid. So when you get to that embassy interview stage, I think after that, it picks up a little bit once you have your priority date and all those kinds of things. So there's a lot that happens after stage 7, but it's a lot that can take a lot of time because we're dealing with governments, right? And in the United States, this really blew my mind. Absolutely. Ron Hoppy told me this, and I was like, you have to be lying to me, Ron Hoppy. But he's Ron Hoppy, and he doesn't lie to us. So he told me that your immigration package, once we have all your paperwork, all your shenanigans, your whole life story, right? Your dependents, your everything, it ends up being like 100 to 150 pages of your life, right? We send that to the United States government and they look through every page manually. It's not done on computer. We don't submit it by computer. It's done by paper. And that blows my mind. With the technology that we have today, United States, get it together. So that's part of why it takes so long, is because there's so much about you and about each of our wonderful nurses that our government has to go through manually. Isn't that just crazy? So I can't give you an exact time frame to answer your question, because it's going to vary based on what country you're in, a lot of different factors. But after stage 7, stage 12 is when arrival happens. There is a stage 13 too, because we have an amazing candidate support team that supports you upon arrival. Hello, Kari. Well, hello, EJ. How about for license endorsement to Maryland? Are they accepting the PTE? Maryland. I'm scrolling on my document again. No, Maryland is not. I should have known that. I deal with Maryland a lot. No, Maryland is not accepting the PTE, EJ. So IELTS and TOEFL it is for you, my friend. Hello, is it required to have a current bedside experience? Currently, you have a 1-year gap of your employment. Okay, so this is something that I was able to listen to Ron answer a lot at a lot of our open houses. I learned so much. Anytime Ron does a webinar, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in because he is super educated with all of this. Obviously, he started worldwide. You have 10 years bedside experience. That's fantastic. You have a 1-year gap. Okay, I understand. In your picture, you have a little tiny baby. I don't know if that's why you have a 1-year gap, but your little tiny baby, Audie, is so stinking cute. I just want to pinch some cheeks. But that happens, especially if you have a 1-year gap because of childbirth. You've had a child. That is a lot more easily explained than I just felt like taking a year off. Taking a year off for your child, very easily understood. My advice to you, though, and the advice that I heard Ron give many times, was return to bedside as soon as possible, because employers are going to be looking for current experience. That is what they'll be looking for. But like I said, if you took a break because you had a child, that's normal. I said this yesterday in the webinar, but just in case, in the United States, I will say that our maternity leave is it's really bad. As a teacher, I'll just kind of explain. I was a public education teacher. I know for nurses, it was pretty similar. I got 6 weeks. 6 weeks when I had both of my children, and they took all of my sick days, which would be like PTO. They took all of those days first, so that by the time I returned to work, I had no sick days left. They had taken them all, and then I get 6 weeks. If you have a cesarean section, you get 10 to 12 weeks, but 12 weeks is the longest I've seen. Some companies, will give you the 3 months. They legally in the United States, they have to hold your job for a year. However, you will not be paid. So you're not always paid for your maternity leave. So that is something I do like to kind of throw out there for those of you who are planning on having a family or having children. Maternity leave in the United States is no bueno. Something we need to fix for sure. But hopefully that answered your question, Audie. My response to you is return to bedside as soon as you're capable of returning to bedside. Return to bedside ASAP. Hello in Pakistan. Can I use the TOEIC for license endorsement to, is that Missouri? Is that Missouri? M-O, Missouri? I'm really bad with my state abbreviations. I know I live here. Is that Missouri? Montana? There's a lot of M-Os. Yes. Yes, they do. Missouri, if that's the right state, then yes, they do accept the TOEIC. Absolutely, they accept the TOEIC. You're working in Canada. There's a chance you'll be exempted from taking the English language exam. It depends on your education. Make sure it's not just, are you working there? Like they're looking at where were you educated? That's what CGFNS is evaluating. So that's also really important. Is the PTE accepted for license endorsement from New York to California? Yes, it is. Absolutely, it is. Learny, is the PTE accepted in Virginia? Yes, it is. For licensure by endorsement? Yes, it is. For the nurse aide, you do not have to take an English exam as a nurse aide. Don't have to do it. But if you choose to, you can take any of them accepted by CGFNS. Missouri, yes, good. So hopefully I answered your question. I got an offer in North Carolina. Are you applying for licensure by endorsement or examination? If you're applying for licensure by examination, that's going to be IELTS and TOEFL only. If you're applying for endorsement, PTE is absolute. The whole list from CGFNS is acceptable for North Carolina endorsement. Endorsement. Trying to fly through these questions. You guys got some good questions. I love it. I love it. What are the best ways to study? How about Nevada? What do you want to know? Which tests are accepted in Nevada, or do you have a specific test in mind, Ricky? I have Nevada right here though. Believe it or not, Nevada is one of the few states that does not accept IELTS for their licensure by examination. They only take TOEFL and PTE. But for licensure by endorsement, they do take TOEFL, PTE, and IELTS. TOEFL, PTE, and IELTS. So there's Nevada. What are the best ways to study? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You are studying right now. You are listening to an English show. You've been listening now for quite some time. This has been a long show. Thanks for hanging in there with me today. Listening to English, typing in English. When you're typing in these questions, hopefully you're typing in English and you're not using a translator. Type in English, practice your English. I'm not going to judge you. Find a study buddy. Find someone that you can speak with every day in English for 30 minutes. 30 minutes is what you need to be doing at minimum every day. Once you get into the 2 weeks before your test, you need to go ahead and start preparing yourself mentally for the timing portion of the test. So you need to take a reading test. In the amount of time that you'll be given. You need to take a writing test on the time that you're going to be given. Speaking test, listening test. You need to be doing the timings at least 2 weeks before. The week before, you need to take at least 2 full practice tips. I was reading pro tip from the host. Practice tests. 2 full practice tests, timed practice tests the week before your test. So that's the best ways to study is to practice. And then after you take your test and after you get your amazing score results, continue speaking in English. Absolutely continue speaking in English. Do not stop. Just keep going. Hello, Mark. Thank you for tuning in today. Let's see. Just one final question that I came up with. How much time should I dedicate to studying? The closer you get to your test, you're going to want to start increasing your time. Like I said, actually practice for the duration of the test so that your brain is prepared to think and stay focused for that extended amount of time. But daily, you should be speaking 30 minutes every day, speaking solely for 30 minutes. Watch shows on Netflix. Listen to shows on Netflix. Listen to podcasts. I have a podcast now. I post it on my social media page. I did a podcast on life in South Carolina. I did a podcast on life in California. And next, I'm going to do a podcast on life in New York, where I break down the cost of living in these states, raising a family in these states, best places to live, safest places to live, all those different types of things is what my podcast series is currently focused on right now. So listen to you don't have to listen to me. You can listen to other people. Absolutely. Listen to podcasts. Sing along with the radio. Singing is a great way to practice pronunciation. Mimicking what you hear from an American singer, and mimicking, their voice style and their pronunciation is huge. It's an awesome way to practice. If you're not a singer, sing in the shower. It's the best place. Best place to sing is singing in the shower. The acoustics are always really good. But 30 minutes speaking every day. That's what I always recommend. So any other questions that you guys have for me? I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up over here because I know Tracy is over there going, Kari, I've got things to do. It's a busy day. But I want to thank you guys so much. I watched the Explain series in Netflix to improve my general knowledge about everything. Ian, that's really great. Another great tip would be anything on National Geographic or the Discovery Channel. They're going to use very educational language. They could talk about something that you may want to know about as well. So I love that you watch the Explain series. That's an awesome tip, Ian. I love it when our candidates support each other and give each other tips. So don't forget that if you are already with Worldwide, you're already with a case manager and you're an RN, I would love to have you in one of my free English programs to help you prepare for your exam. You can always reach out to me via email as well. You can always reach out to our recruitment team. Tracy's posted some great links in there for you guys to have access to us. If you haven't applied with us and you want to apply, click that apply link. It doesn't hurt. A recruiter will contact you and kind of walk you through what you need and all that stuff. So thank you. I'm so glad this session was informative for you today. Please, please, please remember, don't face the corner, face the world with Worldwide. It was my honor to talk to you all today. And make sure you tune in next week because I'm leaving my corner again. And I'm going to go on a pretty fun adventure. And I will be live leaving my corner. So fingers crossed that this goes well next week. But I can't wait to see you next week. Can't wait to hear your chats, your discussions, and your questions. But again, don't face the corner, face the world with Worldwide. Have a great day, everyone.